Okay, so in Wunderbuild, there's a couple of ways that we can go about showing exclusion items that we want to make the owner aware of. So within the costing, what you can do is when you go to within a cost category and I go to edit, one way to go about it is under the notes section, making a particular note if something's excluded for a particular item. So in this example, under architectural design, I've got a note here, internal elevations excluded. So then it shows directly under that item within the costing. The other way you can do it is also just by going to the end of that cost category. And then I've created a section here called owner notes / exclusion items. And I've made the same note here just to show you in this example. What you have to do, however, is that in order for this to be displayed in the quote proposal, you need to put a dollar value against it. Otherwise, it won't show. And I guess that's the way I've set up the template so that within your sort of master estimate template, you might have hundreds of thousands of line items, but for that particular job, you only want the owner to see the items that have a dollar value assigned to them. So if that's the case and you've got that option toggled on within your quote proposal settings, you'll want to put a small amount against that owner note exclusion items cost item, so that this note comes across in the quote proposal when it's presented to the client. So in this example, I've just got it as 0.01 cents. Obviously, that's nothing in the scheme of a building quote and I guess in general. So yeah, we just have to add something there so that it displays in the quote preview when you submit that to the client, or quote proposal, I should say. So then and then another way is that you can just add another cost category at the end. So here we've got owner notes, exclusion items as its own separate cost category, and the same principle applies. You're just going to then put a minimal amount here as a cost, just so that it displays in the quote proposal when you submit that to the client. And I guess with this way, there's sort of all your exclusion items and any notes are grouped all at the end. So you might prefer to present it to the owner like that. It might be easier for yourself as well as the builder to see all the exclusion items under one list and one category. Otherwise, it may be easier, like I showed before, to list those exclusion items either at each particular costing item within the cost category or at the bottom of that cost category, so you know that any notes and exclusion items are related to that specific cost category when you or the owner are looking at that quote proposal. So once you've done that, this is how it looks in the actual quote proposal document itself. So you can see here it's added directly under the cost item, and this one here it's showing is added right at the end of that cost category. And then if I go to my last cost category item, you can see in this example it's showing just as one cost category at the end, and then all the notes would be added within this cost category for any exclusion items or we have not allowed for items. So that's exclusion items when we're being very specific about what we haven't allowed for. The other way that I also do it is that within the estimation design or quote proposal options in Wunderbuild, we've also got a notes section that can be added in. So this is it here. So I call this notes section inclusions, exclusions, notes, and this is where you can note things I guess more broadly for the building company as a whole. So I've still got the heading of we have not allowed for. I've got a heading of we have allowed for, and I've also got this owner notes heading. But generally speaking, this would be more things for the building company as a whole, what you generally would allow for, wouldn't allow for, and any general notes. So for example here, for preliminaries, design, pre-construction, public liability insurance for the duration of the works has been allowed for, homeowner warranty insurance has been allowed for, builders all risk contract insurance has been allowed for. So I guess you wouldn't need to update that for each estimation of job because it's a generic inclusion item. And I guess the same goes for a lot of these we have not allowed for items where you again wouldn't generally allow for these particular items for this category for most estimates that you do or all of them. So you shouldn't need to change this too much. And the same goes for this owner note section. And each note category is structured in the same way in terms of we have allowed for, we have not allowed for, and if there's any generic owner notes, you would put them under this section as well. So you can add specific project notes to this section. Some builders prefer to do that, and just instead of putting the notes in the costing section, like we just showed, some builders prefer just to add them to the notes section when they go within the quote preview. So if you go to customize and we go to notes here, see I've got notes enabled, and this is where all those notes are stored. And you might just prefer to go into here and add your general notes and any exclusion items in this section and update each section within this notes section as applicable to the estimate. So the only thing that why you may choose one over the other is because any costing item notes or exclusion items that you specifically note within the costing, they're going to get added to obviously the costing, and then when that estimate hopefully becomes a job, those same notes will then carry over into the job costing or job budget for you to easily see, rather than having to go back to the actual estimation to see the notes that you've added under this this notes section within the quote proposal. So that's probably the main difference. And again, it's probably whatever you find easier when you're noting exclusion items or general notes, whether you find it easier to add them into this notes section within the quote proposal or the costing itself. I tend to prefer to add them into the costing because it's sort of as you're doing an estimate, that's when you're going to be in the flow of adding things in, and you're staying within the same section within Wunderbuild rather than jumping into the quote preview and then adding the notes under this notes section there. But both work, and I guess again this notes section within the quote proposal is probably more a generic general notes and exclusions and inclusions item section for the company as a whole, and I guess that's why it's probably more suited to that section within the quote. But again, you can be specific in this section as well and add things here as need be also.